What's up, everyone? Welcome to the NBA Daily Podcast, your home for useless facts about the NBA. My name is Dawson Shine, and I'm your host. First off today, we're talking about how the Hornets stung the Celtics 114-100 at TD Garden, the Celtics' home court. In a game for playoff positioning, the Hornets dominated from start to finish, especially in a 31-3 run in the second quarter to take a 22-point halftime lead. I didn't misspeak. 31 points to 3 points. And it happened within the span of 8 minutes in the second quarter. They just could not stop getting turnovers. The Celtics kept turning the ball over, and the Hornets just kept running the floor, scoring off fast breaks, everything. Lin also got hot in that quarter. He had 20 points in the first half and 10 free throws. Jefferson disrupted the guards in paint and forced turnovers consistently, and they played cohesive team defense throughout that entire run. Once it was 22-point lead at halftime, the Celtics basically gave up. They couldn't hold on, and they couldn't play against these Charlotte Hornets. Hornets were just too physical all night, and it was crazy to watch, honestly. As a Celtics fan, it was kind of depressing, but incredible at the same time. The Hornets just could not be stopped in the first half, and after that, they coasted to victory. That 22-point first half lead was the most against the Celtics all season. And the Celtics have had a couple of bad games this season, but they were lit up in the first half, especially by Jeremy Lin, who just went off on them. Which is interesting enough because there was recently a video that just came out 2 days ago, I believe, about Lin not getting enough foul calls. It showed him getting hard fouls, maybe even flagrant fouls by some people's definitions, consistently in games without a single referee calling them. And so the video was supposed to imply that the NBA was kind of against Jeremy Lin. They were biased against him and not helping him out in the games or protecting him, which is really, really dangerous as an allegation, because that could lead to a lot of questions about racism against an Asian American player, because there's so few in the NBA, and Jeremy Lin's the only real good player that we know of. So after that video surfaced a few days ago, the NBA actually released a response. It was pretty bland, basically stating that they liked the fact that the NBA fans were so protective of their own players and were so invested in the game that they took the time to make a video, but that there was nothing to find in the video. Those fouls weren't flagrants. However, all of a sudden, after Lin has been averaging 4.6 free throw attempts per game, he comes into the game against Boston and has 10 free throw attempts in the first half. Now, I'm not saying that it's sketchy, because I think it's finally just him getting the right calls. He gets beat up every time he drives to the hoop, and it looks like they're finally making the correct calls. And that was really interesting to watch, because he looked like he dominated once they made the right calls. Instead of making a lot of turnovers when he gets bodied in the paint, they actually called the foul and he was able to get free throws and points for his team, which is interesting because he's a very, very good driver. The problem is he can't finish when he's fouled. Hopefully that's here to stay and that Lin will actually get the right calls from now on, because I do believe he was kind of getting biased against. But besides him, Al Jefferson played incredible on defense. And Al Jefferson is obviously not known for his defense. He's known for his post scoring. I was surprised because he's actually an awful defender. I don't think anyone you ask who watches the NBA would say he's a good defender. Yet, last night, all he was doing in the first half, especially during the 31-3 run, was disrupting passing lanes and disrupting the dribbling of the guards. I can't even tell you how many times Isaiah Thomas would drive into the paint, blow by Kemba Walker, and get the ball stripped by Al Jefferson. And it was really, really scary to watch, because if he could actually play defense with that much focus in a huge game like that, who's to say he can't help in the playoffs and actually step it up on the defensive end for once? Normally, he's almost a net negative because his defense is so bad, it's like putting a turnstile out there. But if he plays like he did last night, they're going to be unstoppable in the paint, which is more than you can say about the Celtics, who played awful in every facet of the game last night. The only player that really came out to play from the start was Avery Bradley. He came out firing in the first quarter, had 11 points, 3 for 4 from 3. He was really balling out. It was really fun to watch when you get to see him get hot in the first quarter like he always does. But again, they failed to close out the second quarter. And man, when I say they failed to close it out, I've never seen such a bad run in the NBA. 31-3. And it wasn't just because they were getting outscored or they were missing shots. They were turning it over so much. Isaiah Thomas, Evan Turner, Avery Bradley, everyone was turning the ball over. But the main culprit was Isaiah Thomas. Normally, I'd say he's the savior of Boston. He's one of my favorite players to watch in the NBA right now, especially when he drives into the paint. But last night, it was like he had butter on his hand. It was so frustrating to watch. He could not hold on to the ball. every time he went in the paint, it was either poked away and stolen, or poked away, he'd fumble it, he'd have to pick it up, run it back out, and try to pass it away. It was ridiculous to watch. They just collapsed. And another least valuable player for the Celtics, Kelly Olynyk. Man, he has no confidence. None. I've never seen a guy who can shoot so well be so afraid to shoot the ball. Just shoot, Kelly. I swear to God, he's open to the top of the key so often, and instead of shooting the ball, he pump fakes, tries to drive it in, misses the shot, or loses the ball. It's incredible, and not in a good way. Oh man, he makes me mad. All he has to do is shoot the ball, and he's a key asset to this team. But instead, he decides to pump fake, drive, and fail every time, or pump fake and pass it once the defense closes in. He doesn't just take the ball, fire it in motion, and not worry about what happens if he misses. Because he shoots really well, 42% from 3 on the season, and yet he continuously tries to pump fake like he's some friggin' guard and drive it in and act like he's going to make a layup over all the defense, or pass it out and be like Chris Paul dishing it off into the corner. It's just not going to happen, Kelly. It's not going to happen. He needs to learn when he needs to shoot the ball and when to pass it away. He doesn't know that yet. He thinks it's just pass it away or pump fake, get closed out on, and then try and do something later on. Just shoot the ball. But besides that little rant there, the Celtics played bad everywhere else too. It's not just Kelly Olynyk's fault. They lacked confidence all night long, and then once it was a 20-point lead at halftime, they just looked like they gave up. And you can't give up in a game about playoff seeding. You just can't, and it's really, really crucial that they be fighting to the end in every single game. Because in the playoffs, you can't stop fighting. You can't just be like, oh, we're down by 10 in the first half. I guess we lost. Let's go home, guys. There's a reason there's 2 halves to basketball. If they can put up 22 on you in the first half, do it to them in the second half. You're professional basketball players. But they quit. They just had their heads down on the bench, acting so sad about it, when they couldn't even put in the effort on the court to try and get back in the game. And of course, the only bright spot once it was garbage time was RJ Hunter, which is nice to watch, but I don't feel like seeing the rookies playing on the court during a crucial playoff seeding game. That's not what I want to see unless it's us blowing another team out. But I have to give credit where credit's due. The Hornets played incredible last night, and they earned that win. And it leads to a really tight race for playoff seeding right now. The Eastern Conference 3-6 seeds are so close. The Hawks lost last night 109-94 to the Cavaliers, which makes the final game between the Miami Heat and Boston Celtics very interesting. Because at the moment, the playoff standings are the Hawks at the 3rd seed at 48 and 33 losses. The Heat are the 4th seed, 47 and 33 losses. The Celtics are the 5th seed, 47 and 34 losses. And the Hornets are the 6th seed, 47 and 34. Both the Celtics and the Hornets are tied at the moment, but the Celtics own the tiebreaker over the Hornets. And also, the Hawks and the Heat can be tied if the Heat win against the Pistons tonight, but the Heat own the tiebreaker, which means that they can have the control of the 3rd seed. So, we're going to have a really big talk on possibilities, because there's going to be some crazy changes to this lineup. Assuming the Heat win tonight against the Pistons, we're going to have both the Hawks and the Heat tied at 48 and 33, with the Heat being the 3rd seed. And the Celtics and the Hornets will be 47 and 34, tied with the 5th and 6th seed. And that's going to be going into April 13th, Wednesday. These 4 teams will all have a game, including the Celtics facing off against the Heat. Alright, now prepare yourselves. We're going to be talking about some possibilities, and these might get a little confusing. So first off, we're going to talk about the Hawks' chances. So, the Hawks are playing against the Washington Wizards, the Heat are playing the Celtics, and the Hornets are playing the Orlando Magic. Now, for the Hawks to get the 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference, they need to win their game against the Washington Wizards, and the Heat need to lose one of their 2 games, either the Pistons game tonight or the Celtics game on Wednesday. But if the Heat win out, they get the 3rd seed because they own the tiebreaker over Atlanta. They beat the Hawks 3 times this season. Now, if the Celtics want to get the highest seed they possibly can, it can only be the 4th seed. And the only way they do that is if they beat the Heat on Wednesday night. They will get the 4th seed, but they won't be able to get the 3rd seed because Atlanta owns a tiebreaker over them. They beat them 3-1 in the season series. And then for the Hornets to get the highest seed they can, they need to win their game and have the Celtics lose because the Celtics own the tiebreaker over the Hornets. And then the Hornets will only get the 5th seed. They can't get a higher seed because the other teams, both the Hawks and the Heat, own tiebreakers over them or will have a better record. Like the Heat will have a better record if the Celtics lose. So honestly, it's just a big mess. It's going to be really crazy to watch all 4 games going on at once. It's going to be really fun to score watch, but also very intense if you're a fan of any of these 4 teams. So keep an eye out on Wednesday. Now, we also have a really close playoff race in the Western Conference, and it's going to come down to the final game as well. And that's the Rockets and the Utah Jazz. Now, I was telling you guys yesterday, the Rockets really didn't have a chance. They were almost dead in the water a couple of days ago. But after winning a bunch of games straight, and then crushing Minnesota last night, 129-105, of course, because of Harden playing amazing as usual, and then the Mavericks beating the Jazz 101-92, which leaves the teams at both 40 and 41, with the Rockets owning the tiebreaker over the Utah Jazz, which is crucial, because that means that the Rockets right now are the 8th seed, and if they win their final game against the Sacramento Kings, they're in the playoffs. They made it. They clawed back, and they kicked the Utah Jazz right out of the playoffs after a crazy collapse by them. Of course, there's still a very good chance that the Jazz can make it in the playoffs. Actually, scratch that. Not a very good chance. There's a chance. We'll say chance. Because the Rockets need to lose, and the Jazz need to win. Now, the Jazz's opponent, Lakers. That's pretty easy, and it's going to be Kobe's final game, so you know he's going to be playing a ton of minutes and not defending very well. The Jazz should be able to win this final game. So if they win that, and we're assuming they do, the Jazz still need the Rockets to lose. Now you're saying to yourself, Sacramento Kings, they're not that bad, right? They're pretty good. I've watched them play. They have DeMarcus Cousins, Rajon Rondo, Rudy Gay. It's a solid lineup. And the Rockets have lost to worse teams this season, right? Well, wrong. The Kings will actually be resting DeMarcus Cousins, Rajon Rondo, Darren Collison, Omar Caspi, and Marco Bellinelli. They're resting 5 of their best 7 players. And the reason they're doing this is because they will lose their draft pick if they are worse than the 10th pick in the draft. That means if they're higher than that, 11th or 12th or 13th. So they need to lose in order to ensure that they have the 10th or better pick in the draft. So they're going to tank this game, and that really screws the Utah Jazz. Because the only way the Jazz are going to be able to make the playoffs is if the Rockets choke so hard they lose to a team whose best player is Rudy Gay and second best player is Seth Curry. No, not Steph Curry. People wish. Seth Curry. And I don't mean to knock Seth Curry. He's been playing really well since he got moved into playing regular minutes. Last night, 20 points and 15 assists. That's incredible. That's a very good stat line. But they're a bad team, and he's not going to have anyone to pass it to. And that's pretty important if you want to play well. And also, the rest of the team will not be playing for anything. They're going to be playing for a coach that they want fired, for an organization that's just dysfunctional as all hell, and on a game that doesn't even matter, and that the organization actively wants them to lose in order to ensure they have a better future. That's going to be a really tough call to make them upset the Rockets. Obviously, you know they'd love to play spoilers for the Rockets' playoff chances. But, in all honesty, the Rockets have too much talent, and I predict them to win by at least 15. Of course, it's a bold prediction considering the Rockets have lost to teams like, the 76ers and the Lakers this season. But hopefully they don't choke this game away, because it's in the bag. All they have to do is come out and play like a decent team. Decent, not good. And they're going to be able to clinch a playoff spot after being out of the playoffs and fighting to get into them almost the entire season. And that's pretty incredible. But on the flip side, pretty depressing for Utah fans. Utah's been trying to fight for a long time to make the playoffs. They've had a tough stretch of years. Ever since Darren Williams left, they've been pretty bad. And honestly, they choked this one. All they had to do was beat the Mavericks and they would have clinched a playoff spot. But instead, they lost to the Mavericks. They lost to a couple of other teams in the past 2 weeks that they really shouldn't have lost to. And they cost themselves a guaranteed playoff spot. And instead, they're on the outside looking in with only 1 game to go. This is not the time when you want to be outside the playoff standings. There's obviously not enough time to make up ground in the playoff standings. With only 1 game left, they have to just pray that the Rockets lose, that they choke, even more than the Jazz have choked. And the Jazz actually beat Kobe Bryant on his farewell game, which may be pretty tough considering the circus and the amount of emotion that's going to be going on. You're going to have famous basketball players like Shaq coming in and giving a little speech at halftime maybe, or even Phil Jackson might say a few words. You're going to have all the Lakers greats that are going to be there trying to talk to Kobe and say farewell. It's going to be pretty much a sad event because we're going to be watching a legend retire. And the Jazz have to overcome this circus and this entire scene of emotions and try and win a game that they need to win to keep their playoff hopes alive. That's going to be a tough call. And I don't know if they're going to be able to do it. But this is why we're going to be watching and waiting and hoping. Because it's going to be an intense fight. You got the Rockets and the Jazz fighting in the Western Conference. The Hawks, the Heat, the Celtics, and the Hornets fighting for seeding in the Eastern Conference. April 13th is going to be like playoffs come early for NBA fans, with all these teams fighting for playoff seeding and for the Rockets and Jazz fighting for the playoff lives. I can't wait to watch it. But we're going to wrap up today's show with a discussion topic. I'm going to ask you guys, who is your most improved player for the season? I'm going to be debating this tomorrow, bringing up some stats and seeing which players I think are the most improved players for the season. But I want to hear your opinions. You could pick someone like Will Barton or CJ McCollum or Jay Crowder or anyone else that you feel is the most improved player for the season. Let me know in the comments. I'll give you a shout out tomorrow while I'm talking about my picks for the season for most improved player. That's all for the show today. Thanks for listening. Make sure you like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Leave some feedback in the comments. Have a great day.